Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Looper Norris here. I got another album review, another episode. Before I get into that, I got a few things to talk about in terms of like my music. Of course, Slay Station's out right now on all platforms. Everywhere where I post my music, you can find that mixtape, as well as the internet. That's another mixtape that I dropped earlier this year, out on all platforms. You can go ahead and listen to that too. SoundCloud, Spotify, basically every music app or platform you can think of, you'll be able to find my music. I got a new track coming out very soon. I dropped that a couple of days ago. Only through SoundCloud and YouTube it's available. It'll be on every other platform for July 4th, alongside the next track I'll be dropping, just because there's a bit of an issue with the distribution website that I work with. So there's a little bit of a delay until you'll be able to see that track on Spotify and iTunes and all the other platforms that I put my music. On July 4th, Paranoia and alongside Fat Pharmacy, both songs you'll be able to find on all platforms officially on that day. But as for SoundCloud and YouTube, you can listen to Paranoia. Fat Pharmacy will be the next track. That track will be available July 4th everywhere. Paranoia, you'll be able to hear that song everywhere on July 4th. Sounds a little confusing the way I explained it, but yeah, just basically Paranoia and Fat Pharmacy, both singles will be available on all platforms for July 4th. So plenty more content to come for the future, plenty more music. And before I start this review, just want to say I really appreciate the views you guys have been giving me. I know I keep saying this, but it's honestly helping me a whole lot. It's helping with the algorithm, the likes, the comments. I'm happy with just the views, but the likes help with the algorithm, so it can push my content and my music to new people, and eventually that will add up the subscribers. So if you can, like the video if it's possible. Today we're gonna do album reaction video, Gunna's album, One of One, which he released about a month ago, from Atlanta, Georgia. Another Atlanta rapper. I know they got a lot though. They got a lot of good rappers. Very well known for his work with Young Thug. Young Thug is the main rapper that helped him get into the industry and get more famous, having him on a bunch of his songs, and eventually he started to pick up more fame and more buzz around the industry, around the hip-hop world. There's like that RICO case going on for Young Thug, just like a whole bunch of like crazy stuff going on with that. Gunna was actually in the middle of that too, being part of Young Thug's crew. Somehow he was able to finesse himself out of the situation, continue his music journey, his career. The smartest decision for him to do that, because after he did that, he ended up being one of the most famous rappers we see today, getting millions and millions in plays, features from a lot of famous rappers, especially on this album. He's got Offset on this album, Rodney Rich also on this album, Leon Bridges. So you already know this guy is very talented, very famous. I'm about to break down his most recent album, One of One. Of course, like every other reaction video, I'm gonna go through a couple of the songs just so that you guys are aware of how this sounds like. Maybe like 4 songs and just like a snippet of each song. Then I'm gonna talk about the album, how I feel about it on a technical standpoint, you know, just how I personally feel about it, give you guys my conclusion, a rating afterwards. That should be the video. So we're gonna get right into the snippet of the songs. We're gonna move on from there, man. Gunna, One of One, 20 tracks on this one. It's a pretty long album. I always complain about that, but I mean, I guess that's what the trend is right now with a lot of these hip-hop albums dropping this year. A lot of these artists are putting a lot of songs on their album, so I guess it's like a business thing or whatever. But yeah, I'm gonna play maybe like 3 to 4 songs, just about 10 seconds of each. First song I'll play, What's Up.
That's a big fact. Big on the one of your big fat. Get your bitch shaking it like a dispatch. My money, I don't want to chit chat. Don't care if it gotta be a couple of years. Still, I'm gonna get my lick back. You know why I came up.
This one is Prada Dem featuring Offset.
Yeah.
This one's a big one. It's a famous one.
I caught the top, Balenciaga. Put it in their face, bend it on them. Fly to Abu Dhabi, spin on them. Shit like a party, I ain't going under.
This one Still Prevail.
Come on, ain't tryna be late. That show on, gon' come straight. Couldn't be way out the way. Pick a time and a place. I see how my niggas switch sides. Like, nah, I'm straight, bitch.
This one's Back in the A.
Like, you rich that I'm getting you no rank. Nah, you thinking it's that, but it ain't. They put on my back in that A. Pulling up all kind of ways.
And this one is Neck on a Yacht. This will be the last one we'll do. Neck on a Yacht.
They ain't think I gon' holler in the paint. Then I told you, just fuck what you think. Ride that boy like a blanket. Let him take a swim in the lake. Took my shirt off, these boys out of shape. Hey,
all right. We'll stop there. A few things I gotta say about this album. Just a few. I don't really have like a lot to say about this album after listening to it. So of course, Gunna, part of Young Thug's camp, his whole record label or crew, mainly known for his work with Young Thug. Gunna from Atlanta, Georgia, has that same sound, very similar to, it's kind of like Migos, Lil Baby, and I'll probably say Young Thug, of course, mixed together into like one artist. That's what he reminds me of based off of his sound. Very talented artist though. Yeah, he's able to sing and he's able to rap, which is not easy to do, and he can do both very well too. You know, like there's some rappers that rap and then they do a little bit of singing, and there's some singers that do a little bit of rapping. All the way professional on both sides. I feel like he's one of the few rappers that can really sing and can really rap at the same level. So the album is really good in terms of how professionally it sounds altogether. Whoever worked on it in terms of post-production, the engineer, whichever engineer Gunna used on this album, did an excellent job. You can really hear like the money that he puts into the post-production for this. The album sounds very professionally done, which it should, because I mean it is an artist like Gunna where he's doing like world tours, he's getting millions of like plays and views on his songs. Like he's a very famous artist, so it's not surprising that an artist like this would have his post-production at a level like that. I'm gonna say straight up, like that's probably the highlight of the album. The reason why the rating is gonna be where it's at, I think the music's good too, but I think the post-production outdid the music itself. And there's 20 tracks on this album, right? You'd think that you would hear like one or two or maybe like 3 songs that are just a little bit outside of what Gunna usually does or what his fans expect him to do. Almost every song on here sounds like the same thing. It's slightly different because what he's talking about will be slightly different. The name of the song is slightly different. Every beat kind of sounds the same. You can tell that the producer, or I should say the producers, because it sounds like a number of producers worked on this one, not just one producer. You can tell that the producer really focused on making every song sound a certain way to make it easier for Gunna to use his natural flow on every song, which is a good idea. On a business perspective, it's gonna be easier to sell more records when it comes to like what the fans prefer to hear, you know, instead of trying out like a different sound and trying out more of an experimental sound. Even though some of these songs get a little experimental in my opinion, especially with the flow that he'll use to make it sound different, but a very few songs are like that on this album out of 20, you know what I mean? Like I'll say maybe like 4 out of the 20 songs he's trying a little bit of a different flow to make it sound a little bit fresher and different compared to like the other songs on the album. It's just every song sounds too much like the same song, you know what I mean? The same flow, the same song. He either sounds like Lil Baby or he sounds like Quavo basically on every song with like a hint of Young Thug, you know what I mean? And it's just like that same vocal sound every single song. For a music listener like me, it gets kind of boring when albums are made like that. I can understand why it was made like that. It makes the record a lot easier to sell. It makes the record a lot easier to promote. It's more accessible in terms of like gaining more fans. It makes it easier to perform and it makes it easier to sell tickets. The crowd knows what they're gonna get when they're paying for their tickets and going to the show. All of that is thought out very strategically, I think, in terms of like the camp and the record label that Gunna works with. It's not the type of album that a lot of like underground heads are gonna like. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the hip hop heads, the underground guys that listen to like multiple styles of hip hop, guys like myself, won't enjoy the album as much as like a true Gunna fan. There's a lot of Atlanta rappers in the game right now. A lot of them have a very similar sound. You even say Future, you can add him into the mix too. Gunna's sound, definitely compare it to Future's sound. He's just like a typical Atlanta rapper when you really like look at it. A little bit above average in terms of like skill level, because Gunna definitely has like, he's got talent, you know what I mean? Every song's enjoyable for the most part. He did a good job at making every song attractive. Every song is very attractive sounding. It's very like pretty sounding. It's you know, it's music that you can put on the radio, or music that you can play in like a clothing store. It'll put people in like a better mood, and you know what I'm saying? Like it's a very like business, you know what I mean? Like take care of business type of album, where like the record label, it's like they gave him like a blueprint of what they expect out of him for the album, and he followed that blueprint very correctly. You know what I'm saying? He gave the record label exactly what they wanted, instead of trying something different and fresh, and you know what I mean, being different. And there's hints of that throughout the album, maybe 3 or 4 songs where it's kind of like that, where he's trying something fresh. He's trying a fresh flow that you never really heard before, and he makes it work with the beat that he's given. But it's only like 3 or 4 tracks out of the 20 like that, and the rest of the album just sounds too like, it's like just too much of the same thing, man. Like every song sounds like the same song. The only thing holding me back from giving it like a higher rating. But on top of that, even though every song does sound the same, he does do a really good job at like making the quality of the music really good. He's a good singer, he's a good rapper, good songwriter. He makes a lot of good similes and metaphors. His punchlines are pretty high level for the most part when you really listening to him. He's the type to like start mumbling in his raps, but even when he mumbles with his raps, you can clearly understand what he's saying. That could be like post-production, like I was saying earlier, giving high praise to the post-production, to the engineer that edited this album. Every kick, snare, like the drums sound very clean on this. Like nothing's too loud, nothing's too low. Not a lot of mistakes in terms of like the recording. I just wish that Gunna tried to make more songs just a little bit different, because I mean, it is Gunna. Like his name is just like, it's pretty famous. He has the opportunity to make something different and fresh, something that we never heard out of like guys like Young Thug or Lil Baby, Future, you know what I mean? I think it's a good decision in terms of like business. He probably makes more money making his album with this style opposed to like experimental style. So on a business perspective, it's probably smart for him to do that. Listen to your record label and, you know what I mean, make the money. Just depends on what type of music listener you are in terms of enjoying this one. It's more for like pop fans that kind of want to just listen to music that's like the most famous, instead of real hip hop and underground fans that want to hear something more fresh and like, you know, a little different. In terms of a rating, I'm giving this one a 7.7 out of 10 based off of my explanation throughout the video. You probably think I would have gave it a little bit of a lower rating, but I just thought the album was very well made on a post-production standpoint. I think the engineer really made this album sound like really good. I thought 7.7 was a fair rating, because I mean, Gunna's got some skills, man. Pretty sick punchlines that I've never heard out of any rapper. I never really listened to Gunna that much before listening to this album, so I think he's far more talented than people think. 7.7 out of 10. Gunna, 1 of 1. Let me know in the comments if it's a crazy rating, if you would give it a lower rating, a higher rating. Let me know in the comments how you feel about it. That's it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Fat Pharmacy coming out very soon. July 4th, 12 o'clock in the morning, right on the dot, on all platforms. Everywhere you'll be able to find it, as well as Paranoia. That will be available on all other platforms. If you want to listen to it before July 4th, talking about Paranoia, you can find the track on my YouTube page and on my SoundCloud page. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Add me, follow me on all other platforms where I put my content and music on. I'm basically everywhere. TikTok, SoundCloud, YouTube, of course, Instagram. Follow me everywhere. I'll be posting music and content all year long. Let's keep this thing going. And yeah, that's it for this video, man. I'm out. Peace.